right, everybody, here we go. This is our new show, our weekly show. It's the Rundown with Shooter and the Stash. I am the Stash. With me, as always, Shooter.
Shooty shoot!
In the house. How you doing today, Shooter?
I'm doing swell. Looking forward to talking about some football. We're almost at week 2. There's a lot of fantasy options going on.
It's the foosball.
We're going to talk about some coaches. I'm excited to be here.
It's good. It's definitely a good day. It's a good night. We're halfway through the Monday night football games. And let's run some NFL down, Shooter.
You want to run some NFL down?
Let's run them down.
I can't run that fast.
Well, I used to be able to. Just kidding. Whom I couldn't. I'm white. So, back to the topic at hand. Let's start with a little bit of fantasy action because that's what everybody really cares about after week 1 anyways, right? It's all about fantasy football. So, let's get right into it.
That's all anyone wants to hear about right now. They want our fantasy advice. I wouldn't take yours as far as defense goes, but I think you got some other good picks.
Wow.
I'm referring to the
One reach.
week
one
1
reach.
performance.
Yeah, well, I mean, who isn't?
But I think we've got some fantasy wire pickups that you can look for. I think the obvious one is James Jones. If he's available,
If he's still available.
make him your number 1 target because he's going to have a good year.
Mariota, if you're looking for a quarterback in deep leagues, even Tyrod Taylor also had some big points.
He's available, I'm sure.
He's available in most leagues. And also Benny Cunningham is a running back. Chris Johnson out in Arizona. There's definitely a lot of options right now after that week 1 and what went down.
Well, let's go through quarterbacks that might be available. You mentioned Mariota, Tyrod Taylor. Those are 2 guys that'll probably be available in most leagues.
Carson Palmer might also be available.
Yeah, if
as
he's
a
there.
non-starter, you might be able to make a move for him. If you're lacking one of those 20-point weekly quarterbacks, he might be a guy to look for.
The other guy that is not going to be as available, but if he's there, you should definitely get him if you're in need, at least for a backup, is Alex Smith.
Absolutely.
He wasn't a guy that was getting drafted certainly high, but he might still be there.
Right.
So that's your quarterbacks. What about running backs? There's going to be a couple that are available. You mentioned
Chris Johnson, I think, is probably the number 1 guy you want to run out and get, with the first guy being banged up there in Arizona. And then also, we don't really know what's going on with Trey Mason yet. They haven't really said. He was supposedly a game-time decision, but it didn't seem like he was even close. So if Cunningham is available in your league, especially in a PPR league, he's definitely worth a go after.
Yeah. Bishop Sankey had a pretty good first week. It might have just been because he played against a god-awful defense.
Yeah.
But I think he's available probably in half the leagues out there. And then Danny Woodhead, again, I think a lot of people probably drafted him, especially if you have PPR. But he had a fantastic day for the Chargers, and I would expect him to keep getting the ball, at least those catches.
And then, again, also, he didn't necessarily have a big day, but the guy in front of him didn't either, and that's Ronnie Hillman. I know he's still available and probably in a good percentages of leagues.
And as a C.J. Anderson drafter in the first round, it breaks my heart.
Yeah, but I was very low on C.J. Anderson this year, so that might be a guy that you're really looking to pick up.
I know I will be. So tight ends, I got one for you. Austin Safari and Jenkins, if he's there for the Tampa Bay Bucks, they're going to be using him with Jameis's bailout. Pick him up. They're going to be behind in a lot of games, so look for him. I know the other one that you were high on was the Bengals tight end. Kind of broke out in week 1.
Yeah.
I think he's out there in a lot of leagues. And we mentioned James Jones as the guy to get this week. But as far as wide receivers, do you have anyone else?
I don't know that anybody really stood out as far as wide receivers in my book, what I noticed.
Yeah. Well, one guy, I mean, he was okay yesterday, but Stevie Johnson is on the Chargers now.
Oh.
If he's available, look for him.
And actually, I just thought about this. We were talking about it. earlier before we started the show on the hind, tail end of the first Monday night game, and that's Roddy White. If you're looking a little weak there at wide receiver 3, flex, you might look at a guy like him that maybe going forward could get you 10 points a game. The 8 to 10 points that you're really looking for, that could be, a key matchup win in your flex position or your wide receiver 3 position. That offense in Atlanta is going to have what I'm calling a resurgent year. So yeah. And then as far as defenses go, nobody really stood out, the special teams and defense, except for the top 4, and one of them really laying an egg. Denver defense might be someone to look at. I know a lot of people were looking to draft them, so if they're there, that might be the one defense that you're looking at going after.
Good pickup. So we actually have a fantasy football question that I got on Twitter. If you want to ask me any fantasy football questions, I've won my fantasy leagues the last couple years, or if you just need a second opinion, go ahead and ask one of us. You can reach me at Shooty Shoots on Twitter, and then you're also on Twitter.
I am at Talks Dash. So I've got a lot of fantasy football experience, 14 years. So, anytime you want to reach out to us for some fantasy advice or questions, or just for us to talk about it, let us know.
So we did get a question, as I mentioned, at official_JBoldT. Asked me a trade question. A lot of
trade talk
folks looking
already
for trades
week 1
already in the season. This is for a non-PPR league, so you don't get those points per reception. He asks, do I give up Abdullah and Landry for Hopkins and Doug Martin? So you've got Abdullah, who's a running back for Detroit, and they're kind of running back by committee still. He might take over the job by the end of the season. And Landry, who is a starter, I believe, for Miami.
Yeah.
And then Hopkins, who's the number 1 clear-cut wide receiver for the Texans, who don't really have a quarterback, but he had a great week 1. And Doug Martin, who is going to get the load of the carries for the Buccaneers right now. What do you think about this? Would you take that trade and take Hopkins and Doug Martin?
On the surface, you're going to say yes right away. If you give a little bit of analysis and think about it long term, I think you still make that trade. Maybe Doug Martin doesn't look as good as you think he does on paper, especially if that offense is playing from behind a lot. But other than that, I mean, D-Hop's definitely like the number 1 guy there. No matter who's throwing the ball, he's going to get his points.
Yeah, and I think for him, really, that's why I make that trade. And Doug Martin is maybe a bonus, but he's kind of equal to Abdullah right now, where Abdullah could be better later in the season, but Doug Martin could be
better now.
Yeah, he could be dropped off and not even getting carries at all.
Right.
So go ahead. I'd make that trade while
Absolutely.
you can. You also mentioned that you're sort of weak at wide receiver, so why not pick up one of the top wide receivers?
One of the top 5 fantasy wide receivers. Exactly. That's definitely worth it.
So send us your fantasy questions, folks. We'll talk about them. It doesn't hurt to get a second opinion from us. And you can also just tweet us. I'll answer your tweets if you reach out.
Absolutely. Well, that's the rundown of fantasy football after week 1. And after that, we decided to kind of do a little thing here on a rotating segment here on the rundown. This week we want to talk about second-year coaches and do some report cards based on last season, where they ended up, where they did in the draft, the offseason, preseason, week 1, what we see coming out of these teams and these coaches in the coming season.
Yeah, so you had 7 brand new coaches last season, and we're going to give them a grade.
Right.
So we'll start off with Mike Pettine. He's the Browns head coach. Mm-hmm. They went 7-9 last year, and they lost to the Jets yesterday in week 1.
Well, this is definitely a tough one to talk about, as the Browns are just perennially a terrible team. Mike Pettine has just not a lot to work with going in here. So just about anything he does is going to be a positive. I think that he had a quarterback controversy, maybe not created by himself. You're seeing a rash of these situations in the NFL where the owners are too involved in the day-to-day decisions of the teams especially in the quarterback position, and it usually turns out to bite them in the ass because that's not what the coach wants. And if the coach doesn't have the players he wants to coach, he's not going to be successful. That being said, if you can give Johnny Manziel the entire year as your starting quarterback and not threaten his job, I think I would overall give Mike Pettine probably a C+ or a B- just on that alone. Just by allowing his quarterback to develop and give him a shot to see what he has. At the end of the year, if you don't think he's got it after starting 15 straight games, fair. But don't sit there and have him start 2, sit 3, start 1, sit 1, come in as a backup, start 1, miss. You can't do that and expect him to grow and for you to be successful as a coach if you don't have that consistency.
Right. And, coaching the Browns is a tough job these days. But
Any day.
I'm going to give them some credit. They went 7-9 last year, and there was a while in the middle of the season where they were right up there and could have possibly won the AFC North. So I'll give them some credit for that. The loss to the Jets in Week 1 was definitely disappointing. They had a lot of things go wrong. Yeah. I think they're going to maybe end up 500 this season. That franchise is just kind of a mess. So I'll give him a C as of right now. But honestly, if he doesn't straighten out that team with their inconsistencies in ownership and decision-making, he could lose his job after 2 seasons easily.
Absolutely. He might not even make the rest of the season.
So let's go to Ken Wisenhunt with the Titans. They went 2-14 last year. Mm-hmm. They beat Tampa yesterday.
Convincingly.
They had a great game.
Whooped them.
They drafted Marcus Mariota, which obviously worked out that first game.
Who'd they draft?
Marcus Mariota.
Who's that? Did he was he good in college or something?
He was the Heisman Trophy winner last year.
Also national.
They said he's never been in a huddle.
Yeah.
So he's been in a huddle now.
No. Yep.
And he scored 4 touchdowns in his first game. So good pick by the Titans so far. Based on his year last year, though, 2-14, I've got to give him a C-. But that team looked good yesterday, and they were playing the Bucs. So how good of a team were they playing? That's the question. So it's tough to grade him right now.
Right.
But I give him a C-.
I'd have to come in and give the old Wiz a C- as well. I didn't have a lot to work with last year. Clearly, they were not really sticking to a quarterback or committing to a quarterback intentionally. I'm not going to accuse any team of tanking, but they tanked, and so they got the number 2 pick. That's going to be a big difference for them. The defense seems tenable, and I think that there are definitely some weapons on offense that Mariota can take advantage of.
Justin Hunter. Who's their tight end over there?
Delaney Walker. Yeah. But yeah, with Delaney Walker, they got some weapons there.
Yeah.
So at the end of the season when we run these guys down again, I'm seeing there could easily be a B maybe there for him. But right now, C-. Yes.
Yeah, and I'd give him a D if they didn't just whoop the Tampa Bay Bucs yesterday. So the next team, this is the coach that had the most success last year. Jim Caldwell with the Lions went 11-5, made the playoffs. They lost in Week 1 to San Diego, but they were up big in that game. I definitely give him an A-, and a lot of that is due to them making the playoffs last year. Tough loss to start the season, but that's a West Coast trip for them.
Right.
I think they'll be
all
right this season. I don't know if they have enough to make the playoffs, though, so that A- might slip. Jim Caldwell, I don't know if he's a leader type of head coach that's going to lead a team to win the Super Bowl. Obviously had success with the Colts, but was that really his team?
Right. Oh, people always ask that of any team that Peyton was a quarterback, at least from that era of his career. I'm coming in here with a hard B, a hard B here. You look at what they did, what the team he took over was already a good team. They already had offensive weapons there. The defense was a good defense. So for him to go 11-5, I mean, I give him a B just because. I mean, I almost should give him a C because that's average work to take a playoff-ready team and get them over the hump. but still lose in the first week of the playoffs.
But that's why he got hired, because they weren't getting in the playoffs.
Well,
and
I mean, no, but they were right there. Schwartz, I mean, they had him right there. But
and to his credit, he was the guy that came in
and changed the culture.
Well, no. What he did for the Baltimore Ravens was he came in and really turned around their offense the year they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, I mean...
Well, he has experience with some of the elite players in the NFL. He has experience winning. He has experience with winning franchises. So, like I said, he definitely changed the culture there. And that's why I give him a B rather than a C. He didn't just maintain and win a game. He changed the culture there, and that's a big thing that I think they need in Detroit, is that sense of, we deserve to be here. We're a winning team. We're a winning franchise. There hasn't really been a concept familiar and associated with the Lions in a very long time. So right now, he's a solid B. If he does something in the NFC North, which is a tough division with the Packers being there, he might be able to get up to a B+, maybe even A- this year, but definitely a B there for Jim Caldwell after his first year with the Lions.
All right, so next up is Bill O'Brien.
Mr. Hard Knocks.
Houston Texans, they went 9-7 last year.
Missed playoffs.
Let's not forget, though, the year before, they had the first pick in the draft. They were the worst team in the league. Right. And that reason alone, I give them a B. They did lose to Kansas City in week 1, but they started off really bad, and they came back and almost tied the game. So I'll give him a B. He's got that team going in the right direction in a division that they have a chance to win, or at least make a wild card in the AFC.
Absolutely. I don't know. I mean, I think that there's going to be a bit of a step back for Indianapolis as a team, and for Andrew Luck as a quarterback. So that definitely opens the door for the Texans. They had the winning record. They were just outside of the playoffs. They almost made the playoffs. J.J. Watt's a man beast, a freak, probably the best overall player in the NFL right now. But yeah, there's definitely, again, a change in culture that you're seeing with this team. They never really knew how to win. They were so close with Matt Schaub and Arian Foster, Andre Johnson. Gary Kubiak couldn't get it done. The best chance they had, and they just couldn't do it. So I think that Bill O'Brien has definitely done B+ work there in Houston since he's been there.
You think they make the playoffs this year?
I had them just on the outside looking in again, only because the AFC is such a very tough conference this year, and I see I see the wild cards coming out of the East and the West.
Yeah, a lot of things have to happen for them to get in the playoffs.
They have to. I believe they have to win the division to make the playoffs, and I don't think that happens.
Well, they got to pick a quarterback. Right. One of those quarterbacks needs to step up. Right. So
that being said, like I said, that's B+ work already from Bill O'Brien, and I like to see good things coming out, and I think he's going to be there for a long time. I do say that. So. Okay. Well, moving on, we have Mike Zimmer up in Minnesota. They went 7-9 last year, but the last 4 weeks were very hot. Teddy Bridgewater was one of the best quarterbacks, actually statistically the best quarterback in the NFL the last 4 games of the season last year, and they finished 7-9. And they're playing San Francisco right now. But what do you think about Mike Zimmer and what he did up there in Minnesota?
I like it for him to take a rookie quarterback, not have his star running back, go 7-9. That's a positive sign. So I gave him a B. We don't know what's going to happen with San Francisco because that game's on right now, but I don't think that would waver my pick that first game.
Right.
I give him a B, and I have them sneaking into the playoffs, probably with a wild card. But he's done a good job turning that defense around, and they're only going to get better with that offense having not only that rookie quarterback getting better, but Adrian Peterson running the ball
all day.
Hello,
all day. I was probably going to give him a B- initially, and then I thought about it, and I think I got to give him a B+ because he really handled the Adrian Peterson situation a lot better than most people realize. I think if you really sit and think, if you actually do think about it, he handled it very well. He has to side with the organization there. That's just his job as a coach. He is a franchise guy first, team guy first, but really handled it well. and was right there ready to say all the right things and really get AP back in it and say, hey, all this other stuff aside, I'm here to play for the Vikings and I'm here to play for you, coach. That right there is a big deal, and I think that is going to show you going forward and making the decision to go with Teddy Bridgewater as well for the rest of the season and not try and go back to Castle or trying to, him and Ha. Once he saw what he had, he stuck with it. So that's a B+ in my book.
Okay, so next up we have Lovie Smith with the Buccaneers, worst team in the league last year, 2-14. They got crushed by Tennessee, another 2-14 team last year. They got crushed by them in Week 1. Not a good start for the Bucs. What's your take on Lovie? He's losing fans in Tampa fast. I
gotta tell you. I don't know that anybody ever would have said this, but I think people miss John Gruden here in Tampa Bay. He was the guy that they kind of ran out of town unceremoniously after a couple of bad seasons when he was really rebuilding and that defense was really starting to age and fall apart. He was never given the opportunity, so he'd take this team and make it his own. And ever since then, and I'm getting there to Lovie Smith. I'm saying ever since then, they haven't been able to find that coach. And I'm wondering if Lovie Smith is that guy either. Because, again, I see him having an issue with the fundamental way in which he manages and coaches this franchise.
So, are you saying this could be hashtag Curse of Chucky?
Hashtag Curse of Chucky. I like it. And I do think that you might be onto something here. And the Gruden curse, or however, Curse of Chucky. This is something that I think is legitimate here.
He was ran out of town quickly, and since then, it's
and unceremoniously. And he did so much for this franchise and for this town, and he really put this franchise on the map. Tony Dungy. I met the man personally. A great man, a great coach, a Hall of Famer, no doubt in my mind. But Gruden is the one that brought the swag and put this team on the map in the NFL. They're still talking about that team. And, that defense was built by Dungy, but Gruden's the one that made them that icon, if you will, with his swag and what he brought to the sideline as a coach. And I love Lovie. But the fact is, the guy just hasn't instilled a culture and an identity. And this is something that you're going to hear from me on a regular basis and a regular theme when it comes to the NFL, and it is identity, team identity. It starts at the top, works its way down through your captains, through your major role players, but it starts at the top of the franchise, it goes to your coach, and that's the number one guy the person that goes between the franchise and the players. The coach has to be the one to set that culture and that identity, and I haven't seen Lovie Smith set an identity yet.
Yeah.
I think he has opportunity with Jameis Winston.
So would you grade him?
I'm going to really give him a D.
Yeah, I'm going with D-.
No love for Lovie.
But the thing, I don't know, because the thing with him is, is it Lovie or is it the players?
Or is it the owners?
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with the owners. It's the players and the coaches that put the product on the field, and they're just bad. They got crushed last year by Atlanta and Baltimore.
Yeah. And
there was one other team that just absolutely destroyed them. And to start off the season getting
crushed again,
whooped by a team that was 2-14 the year before, that's why Bucs fans are crying in the streets of Tampa right now.
Well, and we're early in the season, so it's tough to say. Could even be a kind of a strategy for the Bucs just to kind of lose again this year and maybe get a top 3 pick again.
Getting a quarterback in the first round like Jameis in the first pick, I think usually buys you another year. But if he finishes 2-14 again, I think he might be another coach that 2 years in could be out.
But I'm just saying, though, is that a franchise strategy? A strategy not just by the coach, but by the franchise to maybe not be that good again this year and maybe be able to get another high-value pick. Maybe you can get, an offensive lineman.
I'm not buying that.
I don't think so. But, again, that's what I'm saying, though. We've seen this franchise and this ownership do some weird things over the years. So, who knows?
I think the Bucs went into that game thinking they were going to win that game, and they just got embarrassed again. So, Yeah, D- for me, and I think he's on the hot seat if they don't straighten it out.
I agree, though.
Another guy I think that is probably on the hot seat, and more so because the ownership's just insane there, is our final coach, Jay Gruden. Talk about curse of Chucky. Hashtag curse of Chucky.
Hashtag curse of Chucky.
he might be under the spell too.
He's the big brother. Curse of the big bro.
4-12 last year. They lost to Miami. I thought they started off fine. They were winning at halftime.
Fine.
The problem is, I don't know what the problem is.
The problem is for any other team, the way the Redskins started would be terrible. But because it was the Redskins, it was actually a positive start. And they actually looked good, quote unquote. But the fact is, Kirk Cousins is not a starter in the NFL that's going to win you the NFC East. I'm sorry. Maybe he could win you the NFC South or the AFC South or, well, that's pretty much the only division I think that he could win in football right now. Maybe after a couple of years. But right now, he's not the answer. And you can't pick a quarterback there because who do you have? RG3?
Colt McCoy.
Colt McCoy. He's the answer.
Gunslinger.
Boom. Shoots.
I think you're right. They're going to have another rough season. I don't think they're going to be as bad as you think. I think 4-12, they might be in line for that record again.
They might repeat.
Yeah.
But again, when it comes down to coaching here, I think that Jay Gruden is in a terrible situation with that ownership there, and Dan Snyder, and he's just unfortunately ceremonious. He's a figurehead. He's not really a head coach. So because of that and just the handling of RG3 in general as a franchise and as a coach and staying, because I don't know that he has the situation he wants to have, but he's still willing to stay there, I got to give him an F.
Wow.
The only failing coach from
our
his first year.
F.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's not because I'm a Cowboys fan, and it's not because it's the Redskins.
Sure.
Literally, partly the Redskins, but not because of my homer, feelings towards them. Just based on, I think they're the most confused, shamble team in the NFL right now.
Yeah, it seems like Jay Gruden's a little bit in over his head, so
a lot of it.
I'll give him a D, and I'm not very hopeful
not
for
even
the
a
Redskins.
Minus, just a straight D. Give him a hard D.
I almost gave him a plus, just because that's got to be a hard team to coach. Like they just
he
seem like
stayed.
They're a mess.
He could have easily left. He could have easily resigned and had a job. Maybe not this year, but next year, coaching somewhere else. But he decided to stay. That's why I gave him an F.
I don't know. Maybe it's the curse of Chucky.
He's freaking crazy.
So that does it for our coaches from last year, and that's our coaching report cards. All right, so week 2 is upon us.
That it is.
We've got a full slate of games. I'm sure anyone listening who's listened to this show before can guess which matchup you're looking forward to.
Well, I would think I'd be way off base if I said I was the only one looking at this game coming into this week. You're looking at probably 2 playoff teams here out of the same division. And, of course, I'm talking about the Broncos and the Chiefs. No, I'm just kidding. That is going to be a great game. And they're probably going to have 2 playoff teams out of that division. But, no, of course, I am talking about the Cowboys and the Eagles, 425 game. And, of course, the only game at 425 next week.
Is that the only game really at 425?
Well, there's 2 4 o'clock games, but yeah.
Okay. Obviously, that's the game you'll be watching. I think it's, I guess that's probably the best 4 o'clock
afternoon game. Yes.
Obviously, the Cowboys and the Eagles, there's no love lost there. That's going to be a bloodbath. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't think the defenses show up this game. It's going to be a barn burner. For me, as far as picks, I just don't see the Cowboys losing this game. Even though I want to pick the Eagles with all my heart, I just don't see the Cowboys losing. Even without Dez, their main weapon, I just feel like the Cowboys, after the Sunday night game, beating the Giants last seconds of the game, I feel like they've got momentum on their side right now. I'm sure you're going to completely disagree with me.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you about momentum, but I'm going to agree with you that the Cowboys win this game. But I'm also going to disagree with you overall as to why and how. Again, like I said, one of the themes with me this season is identity. And the Cowboys have it in spades. The Cowboys know who they are on all sides of the ball, in all phases of the ball. And the Eagles do not. Quite simply, they do not know who they are. Watching highlights of this week's Week 1 Monday night matchup against Atlanta showed some flashes here and there, but the defense of Atlanta, which is not even as good as any of the defenses they'll see in the NFC East, in my opinion, is definitely made them look like a mediocre team. They weren't able to get any rhythm established early. DeMarco Murray ran for 9 yards. Granted, 8 of those was a touchdown. 8 of those were for a touchdown run. But you talk about, everyone's talking about the Cowboys missing DeMarco Murray. Well, Joseph Randle and Lance Dunbar combined for 135 all-purpose yards in that game against the Giants. DeMarco Murray had 9 yards rushing after starting out the game with negative 14 on his first 2 carries, or first 2 touches of the game. So, and I think he had 11 passing yards. Yeah, I just see the identity of the Cowboys is what is really going to carry them through this season and through that division. And I think it starts right now in this game.
Well, we'll see. My game to watch this week is definitely an easy pick. I think a lot of people are on board with me here. The Patriots at the Bills. Yeah. After the Bills' performance last week, beating the Colts.
Division game, another division game.
Bring on the Patriots.
Yeah.
Nothing better than bringing on the best to really challenge the Bills. I think it's going to be a tough game for them. I see them winning this game. I think they're going to surprise more people this week. They always play the Patriots tough. They know how to beat the Patriots, and it's the same coach that the Jets had. Rex Ryan's used to playing the Patriots.
He knows how to play Belichick.
So I'm still riding that Bills train. I could be completely wrong, but I think the Patriots are still going to have not a Super Bowl type season. I think they're going to still have the Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great matchup. I think if you haven't circled that one on your calendar already coming into this week, then you're silly, because you're looking at one of the better defenses in the league against supposedly one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And yeah, that's definitely going to be something worth watching, especially in that division. You might be seeing this might be even the game that decides the division in the long run. If you really think about it, a lot of people say, "Oh, it comes down to that last game." Well, what about the first meeting?
So there you go.
Yeah,
you got a 1:00 game and a 4:00 game. I think the other game. There's one other game that you got to point out.
Well, you're going to watch it anyways, though, right?
Seahawks at Packers.
No, it's the 8:30 game, though.
Yeah, the NBC game. That's definitely a game to watch. Do you have any comments on that before we do quick picks?
Rematch of the NFC title game. I will not be watching it. I'll be macrameing or crocheting or underwater basket weaving. Perhaps I will be getting a mani-pedi. Pretty much anything but watching a repeat of those two teams play football.
You're insane, because that game
was one of the worst games I have seen in my entire life.
If
you think I want to see them play again, you're wrong.
Okay. Well, don't watch then and miss out on what's going to possibly
I'm going to watch because
week.
Aaron Rodgers and Eddie Lacy are playing, and I have them on my fantasy teams. But I'm not watching as an NFL fan. I'm watching as a fantasy football commissioner, so there's a difference.
Okay.
So,
well,
that being said.
Well, if you
I have strong feelings about that matchup, clearly.
So who do you think is going to win?
I think Green Bay wins that game.
I just don't see the Seahawks losing 2 games in a row. And I still think they're going to have kind of another Super Bowl. I know they didn't win. I think they're going to have a Super Bowl hangover as well. And they did last week when they lost, or week 1 when they lost against the Rams. But it's tough to imagine them losing 2 games in a row.
I don't see a Seattle offense, so that's why I don't see them winning. I don't see that offense anywhere. So,
well, we'll see. I didn't see much of the Packers' run defense either last week, so it could be Marshawn Lynch just eating Skittles all night next Sunday night. Let's do our week 2 quick picks. We're not going to break these games down, but we'll give you some sick one-liners to tell you to your friends and your parents.
Yeah. Your parents.
Just go tell your mom, hey, guess what, Mom? Broncos at the Chiefs, week 2, Thursday night.
8:25 p.m. on CBS/NFL Network.
Will the Broncos score an offensive touchdown? Will the Chiefs pass to a wide receiver for a touchdown? That's my questions in this game.
These are things you're going to find out if you watch the game. I believe that being at Arrowhead Stadium, Denver will start out the season 1-1, while Kansas City takes a commanding 2-0 lead in that division.
Really?
I do.
I thought your homerism would take you straight to the Broncos at 2-0.
I'm still concerned about their ability to run the football.
Yeah, I think they're definitely overrated, and the Chiefs are underrated, and the Chiefs are going to win this game. So we're on the same page.
I'd watch out for that Denver defense, but I think that offense is just not good enough right now.
So let's go to Sunday, 1 o'clock, the Texans at the Panthers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep my eyes on this game for too long. I think it's going to be a defensive battle.
I hope.
I think it can go either way.
Coin flip.
And I got to take the Panthers just because they're at home. It's their home opener.
Yeah, I'm not falling for that trap this week. Neither am I falling for Houston, though. So I'm actually going to take Carolina. I just don't think Houston has that offensive identity. Again, no quarterback, great defense, but they have to have something to believe in when they're not on the field, and they don't. That's why Carolina takes this game.
There you have it. The next one's an easy one for me, and the 49ers are still playing right now, and let's see if I can get a quick update to what the score of that game is, because that could affect my pick this week. Yeah, it could. I'm not as down on the 49ers as you are. I think teams rally, and they're up 7-0 at halftime against Minnesota. They play the Steelers, though, at Steelers. Yeah. They're Steelers home opener, and I still think there's no way that the Steelers lose this game. They lost, obviously, to the Patriots in Week 1, so they're going to bounce back strong.
I definitely think this is going to be a bit of a statement game for Pittsburgh, winning against San Francisco, coming in on the road. Le'Veon Bell still not in the lineup, but I think this is where they really set the tone for the season, and Le'Veon Bell comes back and leads them to the playoffs, I think.
All right, so we're on the same page there again. Yep. I don't think we're going to be that different on our next matchup. Bucks at Saints, and I'm here to say if you have Drew Brees, he better be in your lineup.
It's a must start.
He's easily going to get 3 touchdowns this game based on what I saw last week.
350 yards.
We'll see how much of a fire Lovey lights under the Buccaneers, but the Saints offense is going to come to life this week if nothing changes.
It comes down to if the Bucs can keep it close early and continue to run that ball. I think that with the New Orleans being a bit of a struggling offense still, this might be the week that as a home game, Tampa Bay, or as a road game, Tampa Bay can kind of get away from the fans, get away from the hype, focus on the game. I think they go in and make a statement, winning at New Orleans.
There you have it. That's a bold prediction.
Yeah. Well, we got to start somewhere. After that, coming up, we got Detroit on the road at Minnesota. Still playing right now. Minnesota is a big division game here, week 2. And I think that this is something that you're going to see coming quite frequently in the near future, and that is Detroit losing at Minnesota.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Lions. I think they looked good that first game of the season, and so far in San Francisco, the Vikings have kind of stalled out. Doesn't seem like AP's doing much, and their offense is not on the board yet. So we'll see what happens in the second half of that game. But I think the Lions, even though they lost, they put forth a pretty good effort against San Diego. So I'm taking the Lions this week over the Vikings. Okay. And let's go straight to the Cardinals at the Bears. Who you got in this game?
I got the Cardinals. Not much for me to talk about here. Carson Palmer is Carson Palmer, and Jay Cutler is Jay Cutler. That's my analysis. I know it's deep, but there you have it. Arizona winning at Chicago.
I agree with you. I think their defense is too strong. I don't think Matt Forte is going to run all over them like he did against the Packers.
Even if he does, there's no other option. So
I'm still worried about the Cardinals' offense, but I'm not scared of the Bears' defense either. So we'll go with the Cardinals as well.
All right.
So we talked about Patriots.
Pretty much one of the game of the week here, Patriots at the Bills. We didn't really pick a winner here, though. So who do you have winning this game?
I think I mentioned I'm definitely riding the Bills while they're hot.
Yeah. I have to agree with you. It's going to be a tough place to win this year up there at Buffalo. And I take Buffalo to go ahead and bring the Patriots and their fans and the rest of the media back down to earth. And
welcome back to earth, Patriots fans. The Bills are going to whoop your ass.
That's right, Patriots fans. You're going to lose.
So next on the bill at 1 o'clock, we got Chargers at the Bengals. Both teams looked pretty good in week one.
Offensively week one.
It's a tough pick for me.
This is a hard game to pick. Another cross-country trip early in the season. This is going to come down to basically who's going to execute here. You're seeing almost identical mirrored teams here in where they are, where their strengths and weaknesses are, and the fact that both quarterbacks have shown that they're top-level guys, but are they elite yet? When do they break through? I believe this is Phillip Rivers' season as far as really cementing himself as one of those elite-type quarterbacks. Maybe never to win a Super Bowl, but definitely one of those guys that goes down and says, yeah, that dude was legit. He could have won a Super Bowl if this and that. So I've got, well, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of guys like that out there. So, and they're worth talking about, and they're great quarterbacks. So I think Phillip Rivers is one of those guys. This is his season to make a real deep run at maybe finally making that Super Bowl, maybe winning a ring. I got San Diego here winning at Cincinnati.
Well, there you go. I'm going to take the Bengals in this game. It's really because they're at home. It's their home opener. Yeah. The Chargers are coming across the country, and I think they're two pretty even teams. So I'm taking the Bengals at home. One of the best teams in Week 1, we mentioned it, was the Titans. And the Browns didn't look too good, but the Browns open up at home against the Titans. Titans on the road again, 2 weeks in a row to start the season.
Johnny Football starting for Cleveland as well.
Can they beat the Browns as convincingly as they beat the Bucs?
If you're a Bucs fan, you're hoping yes. If you're a Cleveland fan, you're hoping that maybe it's not quite as bad as it has been the entire time since your franchise came back to town. So, I gotta maybe.
It's a tough pick. You gotta pick one of them.
I gotta root for Cleveland to maybe win a game here early in the season behind Johnny Manziel. Gave him some confidence. Maybe he doesn't have to look over his shoulder all season. I'll take the Browns at home.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, you got to pick one of them.
Well,
I'm taking the Titans. I'm jumping on that bandwagon until someone stops them, and I don't think the Browns are going to stop them.
Well, you're a Ravens fan, so I'm not surprised you're familiar with bandwagons.
Doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't, but it's funny to me.
There's literally no bandwagon Ravens fans. Also, no bandwagon Browns fans. So it's relevant. But you're the bandwagon Browns fans this week, so you're taking the Browns. Falcons at Giants. The Falcons looked good tonight on Monday Night Football.
Pretty good against an explosive offense.
I'm still taking the Giants to win their home opener, though.
Wow. Okay, no. What does $84 million get you in the NFL? When it's spent on Eli Manning, 0-2. That's what it gets you. You lose 2 weeks. Yeah,
2 weeks in a
give
row?
Give away Week 1 victory against a division rival that you haven't beat in 2.5 seasons, and then you go ahead and follow that up by laying an egg at home against Atlanta. That's what $84 million gets you in the NFL for a quarterback named Eli Manning these days.
And that's what a Dallas Cowboys fan would say.
Again, has nothing to do with me being a Dallas Cowboys fan.
That's unbiased.
That's unbiased. Eli Manning is an overrated, crappy quarterback. Analysis.
Moving on.
And that goes out to one of our amazing listeners who always ask for ultimate Giants coverage. So, Miss Teresa, that's for you. She's a Giants fan. She might not like it.
I'm sure she's happy.
But that's what she knows where I stand. She used to live just a few doors down from the stash, so she knows where I stand.
I can easily guess who you're going to take in the Rams at Redskins game through your unbiased picks here.
This, again, has nothing to do with me being an NFC East fan. This has everything to do with the fact that Washington sucks and St. Louis is a contender to be the number 1 team in the NFC this year. So, St. Louis wins.
And we can agree on that one.
Finally.
The Rams are going to go into FedEx Field and probably have their way with the Redskins.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the 4 o'clock games. The Dolphins at the Jags. This is a Florida State matchup here. Who you got?
I have Miami, hands down.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking the Jaguars were going to surprise people last week, and they let me down.
They'll surprise people at the end of the season. I don't think they're going to be anything surprising early on.
Yeah, I think they'll get better throughout the season.
No, absolutely.
The Dolphins started slow on Sunday.
I think they come back here and kind of light the world on fire, so to speak. At least for them.
Well, we're in agreement there. Yeah. The next matchup at 4 o'clock is the Ravens at Raiders.
It's a tough one. It's at the Coliseum, too.
This one should be an easy win for the Ravens. I see their offense getting back on track and scoring an offensive touchdown in this game. And I'm not really worried about their defense as much as I am worried about their offense. People forget they won the Super Bowl the year they lost Terrell Suggs, and that was a complete different defense. But the problem with the Ravens right now... The problem with the Ravens right now in Week 1 is their offense. And the Raiders, I don't think they're going to be that scared of.
This is my wacky pick of the week. And I'm going with Oakland here. I think this is the upset special. Oakland making the Ravens 0-2 to start out the season.
You fucking crazy, man. You sound insane. Do you realize that?
All right. Well, the next matchup is the Cowboys at the Eagles. We talked a little bit about that. Who did you think was going to win?
It's definitely going to be a Dallas Cowboys victory here at the Link.
And as mentioned earlier, I can't disagree with you on that game. It's going to be a tough game, but I think the Cowboys pull it out again. Yeah. So that night game that we talked about Sunday night was the Seahawks at the Packers. I picked the Seahawks to win.
I picked the Packers.
You picked the Packers.
Yep.
There you have it.
And that leaves us only with the Monday night game, which is the New York Jets.
The high-flying 1-0 Jets against the lowly Colts 0-1.
Indianapolis Colts.
Couldn't do anything right. They couldn't do anything right last week. The Jets couldn't do anything wrong. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that the Colts bounce back and become 1-1.
That's a really mighty big limb. Hopefully it's strong because I'm going to join you on it. I'm going to go with the Colts as well in Week 1.
I'm feeling a big win for them. It could get ugly. I'm not a believer in the Jets yet, but the Jets and the Bears were probably my biggest surprise from Week 1. They changed my view on them for the season, so I got my eye on those teams. They got a chance to be better than the garbage I thought they would be.
Better watch out, Jets. Shooter's got his eye on you.
The high-flying Jets. So let's wrap it with a question for the fans. You can reach out to us on Facebook. Just search for Shooter in the Stash.
That's right.
You can also find us on. You can also find us on the Twitter machine.
The Twittering feeders
at Shooty Shoots or at Talk Stash. And the question that I was thinking, and we talked about this Sunday a little bit, and we'll answer it right now, and we'll pose the question for our listeners. But the ugliest uniforms in NFL history. And the reason why I brought this up is because the 49ers have their new black uniforms on. It seems like Twitter.
A lot of positive response.
A lot of people like it. I think it just looks weird. The black and red combo. It just doesn't look normal. It doesn't look like the 49ers to me.
Well, here's my biggest problem is that they came out with these uniforms and have the same helmets. It's not like the Packers or the Steelers when they wear their throwbacks or their alternate uniforms. Even the Cowboys have the white helmets, for the alternate uniforms. I think the black and red uniforms would look better if they did a red helmet or a black helmet or a white helmet.
Yeah. I like the red helmet.
If they would have done like a red helmet with a gold 49ers flag or even a black 49ers flag, I think that would have looked really nice and finished the look off. And I think that's why I didn't like it, or I don't like it, as I just don't think it's a complete look. I think it's kind of half-assed.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. That gold helmet just doesn't seem to fit on the top of that uniform. But who's your worst of all time?
Worst of all time? It's got to be the Steelers throwbacks.
The Bumblebee?
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Packers are close, but at least the Packers are like like, I don't know. They're cool. I don't know. I just don't like, yeah. Although, if you really think about it, you got the Bucks creamsicles.
I like those. I like orange jerseys.
The Houston Oilers had some ugly-ass jerseys, some ugly uniforms.
I like the powder blue, too.
The Seahawks neon green.
I like those, too. You're naming off my faves. I like different uniforms, but
I'm all for change.
Those Steelers uniforms, it's something. It's not just because I have a hatred in my
Complete
heart
disdain
for the Steelers. It's just the stripes on a uniform. It just doesn't look right, and it's ugly. And I'm sure they're bringing them back out sometime this season. So that's my worst uniforms of all time.
Of all time.
So that's the ugly jersey question of the week.
That's right.
You got our answers. We want to hear your answers. Pretty much most of the people that have reached out to us have been mentioned on the show. We want to talk about you too.
Yeah, and actually, if you want to join in on the question of the week, go ahead and share your thoughts with us, and we will absolutely bring that back up on the next episode and talk about your responses to the question of the week as well. Once again, thank you for joining Shooting the Stash. I am the Stash. With me, as always, the Shooter.
Shooty shoots.
Shooty shoots in the house. Shooter Stash out.